Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation to talk to you guys today about Adeptus Mechanicus. Today, I'm joined by my bestie over here, Mr. Warlord Titan. Mr. Warlord Titan knows a couple of things about big shooty robots in this edition, especially since he was blessed and forged by the Messiah. Enough fluff for this. I want to talk about competitive AD Mech. Recently, I was able to get a game against Iron Hands, and I kind of used Iron Hands as a gatekeeper for this list to see if it was possible to run the Mechanicus list that I wanted to run in the current meta. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do turn on the bell for notifications, as I'm going to be covering a lot of the developments with this army and other versions of the AD Mech army as I build them up. And to be honest, I do have some hopes with this army. I think there's a lot of good strengths to it. And if you check out that video versus Iron Hands, you might see why. So right now with my AD Mech list, I have composed it of some of the units that are not traditionally been found. Typically people like Iron Striders over Dragoons. I'm taking Dragoons. Typically people, I've seen the Castellan robots appear a couple of times, especially out of Lucius with the Solar Flare, which, spoiler alert, I'm running a Lucius detachment. And I have a Solar Flare, and it's on a Data Smith, so he can teleport robots. I really do I love that combination, especially with the Cataphron of Messiah that allows me to charge on 3d6 and pick the two highest. And it's whenever you make a charge or advance roll, you roll that additional dice. So with the robots who get a inherit reroll, when they override into their combat protocol, they will get to roll 3d6 and pick the two highest every single time that they attempt to charge, with that cataclysm in effect. So with the game I played against Iron Hands, there was one glaring weakness. And I'm going to give a little bit of information to that game. So if you haven't seen it yet, I do recommend going and watching that game before I talk about this some more, because I am going to talk about it in its entirety, because I think it's kind of important to with what some of the changes I'm going to be making are. So a real quick breakdown of the list. Again, it's a Lucius detachment, which means that I get +1 to my saving throw or -1 to your AP. No, I'm sorry, +1 to my saving throw versus 1 damage weapons. I also get a additional 3-inch range to all of my weapons. So, moving past that, Warlord trait is a targetable transhuman that's given off in my command phase to a core unit. And on that same character, I gave him the Logi, which allows him to give another unit in my command phase, ignore AP 1 and 2. So that's kind of what's going out of like my character buffs. There's also a Marshal in this list as well, who has the aura for reroll hits and wound rolls of 1 for Skitarii core units, and the Data Smith, who does Data Smith things with the Solar Flare to be able to port typically the robots, but any core unit with the Solar Flare. So the list is, in my HQs, I have a Tech Priest Dominus. He's the one that can give out the targeted transhuman as my Warlord, and he is also the one of the Logi Discipline. You have the Marshal, who has the Relic that allows him to have reroll hits and wound rolls of 1 aura. And the Data Smith, as I already said, which he's not an HQ, he's an elite. Going over into my fast attack, I have 1 5-man squad of Dragoon. The reason I take it as a 5 and not a 6 is as soon as you take that 6 Dragoon, now everything has to be within 2 inches of another model, and it reduces the footprint that the squad can actually cover. One thing that I like to do with the Dragoons, and I did this at a tournament, worked out real nicely, is by taking the Dragoons to a kind of a midpoint and lining them up and turning the surfboard sideways and having them going straight up and down, you can draw off a lane. Now, vehicles in some units could fly over you, but that's a large base to try and get by. They zone out the deep strike for that realm, that area. And at the time, Dark Eldar was running rampant. And when witches get out of raiders, they go to foot. They could not charge through Dragoons. They couldn't hurt Dragoons. And if they touched Dragoons, the Dragoons would turn around and eliminate the squad really fast. So the Dragoons are very nice for being mobile terrain in a sense, where they can just set up a wall. But if you run into that wall's got teeth. Moving over into the elites, we have the Datasmith, and I'm going to be soon adding a squad of Sicarian infiltrators, a 5-man. The Sicarian infiltrators allow me to deploy them outside my deployment zone. This would be critical because during the game against the Iron Hands, it took me way too long to get to my closest objective. And that was points that I was losing that could have given me the win. I lost the game by only a couple of points. It was, I think, a 4-point loss, and two turns where I held 2 objectives. There's 8 points, and there's the win. Keeping the hidden Archeo Vault aside, there was my win. So that's the only elite that I'm looking at for the army. Going over into the troops. Now, before I was running 2 squads of breachers, 2 5-mans. I'm sorry, 2 squads of destroyers, 2 5-mans. And I'd like to tell you that there's a competitive pick behind it. I'd like to tell you that I had this great plan and great idea. I didn't have anything. I brought these guys on the table for the same reason that any AD Mech player puts these guys on the table and tries them competitive, is they want to hope that there's something is going to work and happen and make them go, Eureka, I got it. I'm taking these guys to the next GT. They are just way too swingy. Too many times I would roll 4 guys shooting into 1 target and get 6 or 7 shots, to then later in the game roll 2 guys into a vehicle and get 11 shots. And while that's like, oh, well, that's great, you can get the 11, that's way too swingy. It's not reliable. And it's fun, it's great in concept, but it's not something to rely upon to be able to do that damage. So I took both those squads out. But I am still running troops because one of the weaknesses was I couldn't get over that hidden Archeo Vault. As soon as he put the objective marker down as the hidden Archeo Vault and had his intercessors, or infiltrators in that objective, in the building, behind the wall, I looked across the field. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get him out of there. The only option I have is moving these destroyers, 6 inches a turn, maybe advancing to get over and get in there. I didn't see it happening. I thought it was going to be difficult, and obviously I was partially right because I was only able to get 5 points on it. Failing a 6-inch charge twice was crucial. Again, taking that objective from him would have turned a 4-point loss into a 1-point win. But I'm not going to go down the realm of salty of, oh, it should have been this, it should have been that. It wasn't. And it's not going to be. And how many other games is that going to occur where I'm not going to be able to pull that off, or the unit gets wiped before it gets there? So that's a problem that I needed to address right now. And the way I addressed it was by dropping the destroyers for, first of all, the 5 infiltrators, and second, a 20-man squad of rangers. I sucked it up, I put them in there. Everyone knows that rangers are great. Why? Well, once again, they're core, so targeting them with the transhuman ability that I have, toughness 3 guys with transhuman, that's just targetable, that's awesome. Let's make them ignore AP -1 and -2. You shoot them with a 1 damage weapon, they get an additional pip to their armor save. Oh, and then you have the Doctrina that is stackable now with the Lucius thing because they got unnerfed. You're looking at guys that can have a 1-up or 2-up save easily just walking across the field. And your opponent has to fire 2 damage weapons into them to take away that extra little armor buff that you got. That's awesome. That's awesome for us. And helps provide support to all of my other units that are multi-wound units that make you think, okay, well, where am I going to shoot these guns? Like a 2 damage gun really isn't going to take down a Castellan robot, but do I want to shoot a 2 damage gun into a 1 wound toughness 3 ranger to take out 1 guy and lead to some tough decisions? And the last piece of it was to actually take a squad of Cataphron breachers. So I look back over these guys and I think there might be a play here. I put the destroyers in there as a hope for them to be some of my anti-vehicle with their strength 8 to be able to hit toughness 8 things, whether it's a demon, a tyrannid, or a tank. I wanted something that at least could hit that strength 8 to get the 4s to wound. That's what breachers do. Their one gun, the Arc cannon, I believe, is a strength 6, but when it shoots at a vehicle, it always wounds on a 4 or better. Okay, that's great. So that takes care of that, and as well as some other debuffs that might occur. And then if it does, its damage characteristic goes from 2 to 3. So it already does more damage than the plasma cannons were. Now, granted, it's only 2 shots, but at least I know it's already 2 shots. I also took 2 Torosian cannons, and apologize if I mispronounce it. And I took those because those are strength 8, neg 3, d3 plus 3 damage. I mean, when those things hit, they're going to hit, if they hit. But the reason for the breachers more so was the fact that they come with a 2-up save and the hydraulic claw. Hydraulic claw for them is going to be strength 10 and 3 flat damage. And I believe it's negative 3. I believe it's negative 3. So I think it's neg 3, 3 damage. And when I get into those scenarios where a squad of Marines is on an objective, these are guys that can breach, get through, grab them, punch a couple Marines off an objective. Even if there's only 2 or 3 left, they can still punch a couple of those Marines off the objective, enough to give me control of it and have an objective secured unit on the point. So I think that those changes there with the breachers, the Rangers, who, by the way, can also do a pregame move of 3 inches, which may not seem like much, but you could go the 3-inch pregame move, then give them +3 to their move off their Doctrina, let the Marshal knock off the negative factor so they don't lose the save buff, and then they move 6 inches. So you're looking at inherently a 12-inch base move on these guys on the first turn. That can really clear some ground and make your opponent have to dedicate weapons that they may not want to early to these guys. And those weapons they would want to use on my I don't know if you want to call it my core, my centerpiece, my babies, my boys, my Castellan robots. So the 4-man squad of Castellan robots that has all guns, hand cannons, and a shoulder mount has been very, very good. They sitting on an objective in the backfield, draw some firing lanes, look at some objectives, and just shoot and clear units. And they did great. Against the Iron Hands, they went from 4 to 1, and they still stuck it out and were able to make things happen. They bounced some wounds back with because if you guys don't know, whenever you make an invulnerable save with Castellan robots, if you roll a 6, the unit that shot at them takes a mortal wound. So one turn, one of those Valiants took 3 mortal wounds just by shooting at a Castellan. So not only do you fail to do damage on a invuln, but you get hurt for trying to shoot it with a big gun. I love it. It's one of the silliest rules in the game that I don't think really should be around per se anymore, because it's kind of off with how the direction of Games Workshop has gone with it. But man, I'm glad that's still around. It's such a cool, so much fun. So dumb, so much fun. But these guys are able to hold that back objective. I usually use the Datasmith to actually lock them down so they can unlock later on. I can get the 3-up ballistic skill, but I can still pick them up later if I need to. And then the 5-man. 5 Castellan robots. 3 with double fist and a shoulder cannon, 2 with hand cannons and a shoulder cannon. Man, I love these guys. They just go whooping and a walloping. If people didn't know, I just want to bring this up, and I mean nothing but respect to John in this. This was just the happenstance of the game. I mean, John won the game, so it doesn't matter how much damage I did win the game. But I did say I really, really enjoyed the fact that the Castellan robots literally started the game in the very corner of my deployment zone. And we'll call this corner what it is, the southwest corner of the map in conversion table quarters. They then went north, shot down to a 5-man Devastator, charged and killed a 5-man Devastator, piled in and then blew up the next turn a drop pod, went around the corner, charged Marines and a Reaper, killed the Reaper, flubbed on the Marines, had to take another phase to do that. And then a critical play. The Judicar was at center field with 1 wound remaining. Let the Judicar sit there, moved right up to him just out of engagement range, and then shot behind him and then charged him. When I charged him, I rolled a 7. So 2 of the robots just ran right past him because now they're allowed to cross engagement range because they declared him as a target. They went past him. The other robots then surrounded the Judicar, got in engagement range, and kept coherency with the robots that ran up ahead. I then spent 1 command point for crushing weight. Crushing weight, which says whenever a specific vehicle units complete a charge move, for each model in engagement range, roll 1 dice. On a 2 up, they take a mortal wound. So I left 3, maybe it was 4, in engagement range, rolled the dice, did my 1 mortal wound, finished off the Judicar. Now what happens? Well, my robots charged. They are still allowed to activate. So they got to move 3 inches to consolidate. To pile in, and then 3 inches to consolidate. Meaning these guys got to go 6 inches further through center field. So now these guys have gone from down here to the northwest corner, cut across the middle, going 13 inches on a charge, 7-inch charge, 6-inch pile in, 6-inch consolidate. Down to this corner, came around the terrain and went back up to finish the game the long way on my opponent's objective marker. I mean, come on. That doesn't earn a place for this unit in everybody's hearts. I don't know what will. And then I round out the list with 3 dune crawlers. And I had my buddy Zach ask me, he's like, those dune crawlers didn't seem like they did anything. Maybe they swapped them out for something else. And I said, but Zach, they did a lot. They were the reason I was able to get aggressive and push forward. Each dune crawler only costs 100 points. And those 100-point units that walked on the board late in the game, if you notice, all 3 of my dune crawlers held the back corner objectives and went and took the middle. Those guys made it so I could keep pushing forward with the rest of the army, at least in theory. Now, again, issues that I had is I can't go through a lot of walls with my vehicles. That's where the Rangers come in. That's where the Infiltrators come in. Infiltrators can leave the board for a command point once I secure that objective. But the Infiltrators also, I can put them on, if my opponent gives me the opportunity to put a unit on the further objective from me that may end up becoming my hidden Archeo Vault, that's points I can score on the Infiltrators for doing absolutely nothing with them. And that's great value right there. Otherwise, I can put them on another objective to be able to control it. So now in those scenarios, I'm not losing primary points like I did against Iron Hands, because I lost a lot of primary that I should not have lost with just a unit to hold that one objective. All in all, I think these changes are going to make this a significant competitor. I really, really, really think that this could be something I could take to a tournament. I want to get it on the table again soon. I'm curious if anyone thinks that there's any hard counters that I should look into. And I have a lot of friends that play a lot of different lists. I can try and get them over for a game. Love to get them on the channel. So in the comment section, let me know what you think might be a hard counter for this list. At the same time, let me know if there's anything with the stratagems, the secondaries, or anything that I might have misconstrued or missed, but I think I got all this, and be glad to have that discussion down below. This is a list that I'm very proud of. I love my Dragoons. I love my Castellan robots. So any opportunity I could run them is always an opportunity that I want to take. Right, Mr. Warlord Titan? He agrees, and he knows a thing or two. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.